It's noon here in Ventnor City, New Jersey, and somewhere in New York City. And this is CarEdge Live for Thursday, October 10th, with your hosts, me, Ray, a little chilly here in my apartment because I refuse to turn on the heat, and well, Zach, who is probably overheated in that WeWork office space. What?
Not overheated, just a little echoey back in the normal office tomorrow. That being said, today's show is brought to you by CarEdge.com. Beat the dealer and save thousands, baby. Love what our team is doing with the new website. If we can help you out with anything, check out CarEdge.com. We've got the car search, the car research platform. If you need help buying a car, we have a car buying service. Our warranty products, sell car refinance, and insurance, all there. Dad, the big story this morning. The shakeup at Stellantis is going to get even more severe here. Let's talk about it. This company is struggling. Their CEO, Carlos Tavares, has been in the news a lot recently, whether it be the board talking about a succession plan or now with a proposed shakeup that is going to change management. Stellantis continues to struggle, and it seems like it might be getting even worse. What do you make of this?
Well, I'm sure he's checking on the language of his golden parachute and probably hoping that the board releases him from continued employment so he can collect on that. It's like any business when the head of the business makes the wrong bet. Well, he ain't the one that's going to pay the price for making that wrong bet. There are other executives below him that are going to be scapegoated and are going to pay the price for that. So who knows who's safe at Stellantis and who's not? And well, truth of the matter is, it might turn out that the board has seen enough, and that their suggestion might be time for Carlos to go.
I wouldn't be surprised if he's terminated soon, Dad. And to quantify the problem, folks, just go use the CarEdge car search, and we do this seemingly every day. Let's look at new Jeeps for sale. We're in Bethesda, Maryland, 50 miles Bethesda, Maryland, 128 days on the market, 112 days on the market, 300. I didn't even change the parameters here, Dad. You can see these Jeeps just aren't selling. You can do the same thing with Chrysler. You can do the same thing with Dodge. You can do the same thing with Ram. Their cars don't sell. And I think as CEO, that's like the number one responsibility, right?
Well, you would think, as the CEO of a major automobile manufacturing concern, that the most important thing that the CEO would be tasked with is making sure that he's signing off along with his executives on a product to be built that customers would want to buy. Now, they've proven over the last 5 years, as sales have continued to go down, that they have signed off on building vehicles that their customers don't want to buy. Well, at a certain point, somebody's got to be held responsible for that. And I'm just guessing that, at the highest possible level of Stellantis, that the top executives were saying, yes, build more of the higher price point, higher content vehicles, and just force people to buy them. And what we've seen is they've built more of those higher content, higher price point vehicles, and the public has refused to buy them. And the dealers are screaming bloody murder because they don't know how to sell them. The price points are way too high. The asking prices for these vehicles are way out of whack for where they had been just 5 years ago. And so, yeah, somebody's head's got to roll, and if somebody's head doesn't roll, then, well, I guess it's just a money grab by everybody. I don't know.
Could be a money grab by everybody. If we do see a big shakeup at Stellantis, I would also anticipate a big increase in incentives. We just got the latest data from Kelley Blue Book. I'll pull this up. on the screen. New vehicle prices end Q3 lower year-over-year. Incentive spending increases for the third straight month. So I would anticipate no matter what happens next week at the Stellantis board meeting, you're going to see increased incentives. We'll break down this data in just a second, but I think generally speaking, that's good news. Good news for shoppers is that incentives have to go up. That's the only way that these vehicles are eventually going to get sold.
Yeah, I worked for a vice president or an area manager for the Penske organization, and it's all about price. I mean, he used to always say, if the customer hasn't said yes yet, you haven't lowered your price enough yet. So I think that applies to Stellantis products. If the customers haven't said yes yet, then the incentives that you've placed on them aren't big enough to get them to say yes yet. So between what the manufacturer can do as far as incentives are concerned and what the dealer can do as far as continuing to discount the vehicle, they have to work in consort to come up with pricing where the consumer will say, okay, that makes sense now. I can see myself doing that. And so I would think moving forward, you're going to see more incentives, and you're going to see some of the serious CDJR dealers out there, the ones that understand how to run an automobile dealership, taking lower profits to move the inventory that they have. They cannot continue to move along the road having 23s, 24s, and 25s in stock at the same time in brand new cars. That doesn't work. So yes, there should be some better values for people out there. The only problem is that they're better values for vehicles that people have basically said we don't want. That's the problem.
Yeah. Dad, look at these prices on the Chrysler Pacifica. I'm going to move our heads in a moment. What do you think the price of that 2024 Chrysler Pacifica Pinnacle is behind us? Dad, what do you think the MSRP is?
Okay, well, the Pinnacle. So that must be at the top of the heap. So Chrysler Pacifica Pinnacle, I don't know. I'm going to guess $69,000.
All right, not quite that high, but $61,480. So no wonder.
Yes,
they're struggling to sell these vehicles. $55,000, 54, 54.
Do me one favor. Do me one
Yep.
favor. Now go to the CarEdge research hub and plug in a Pacifica and see A, what kind of score it gets, and B, how rapidly that damn thing depreciates and what the total cost of ownership will be over a 10-year period of time. I think it'll be, I'm just guessing that it'll be astra economic. Oh, and it's a D plus, ladies and gentlemen. Sounds like the type of grades I got in high school. And that was only because my teacher said, I don't want them back next year.
Ranks 165th in terms of overall value, $60,000 5-year cost to own. If you come down here, Dad, and see that breakdown, lots of depreciation, fuel costs, insurance costs, interest expense, maintenance, and costs. So no, I mean, it's not cheap relative to its peers.
So if that's the case, assume for a second that our data is accurate, okay? And I'm assuming that it is. At what price point could you actually, if somebody did the research and actually clicked on this, at what price point would you have to sell that vehicle to get somebody to buy it? Because I'm thinking 30 grand, $35,000 maybe.
And so even though we're going to see incentives go up, and we'll look back at the industry data here, Deb, because we actually did see an increase in incentives last month. You know how much incentives increased as a percentage of average transaction price? They went from 7.2% to 7.3%. So you're saying at Stellantis for Chrysler,
Whoopee,
we need to see incentives of like 30% off, but we're not going to see that. We're seeing a slow increase last month in terms of actual incentives. And again, this is saying that 7.3% of your transaction price are being subsidized by the automaker as an incentive.
And if you see that and you use the research information that we have, I don't know how anybody in the right mind says, yes, I'll buy the Pacifica over a Honda Odyssey, a Passport, a Kia Carnival. I mean, a Sienna. I just don't know how if you look at that information, how you could convince yourself that that's the vehicle you need to buy, unless it's the only vehicle you can buy, in the sense that it's the only finance company that will finance you. Um, but why would anybody buy one?
I think that's the big multi-billion-dollar question going on at Stellantis right now, Dad. Again, the big news this morning is we've got some leaks coming out from Stellantis. They have a board meeting next week, which
For 2
essentially is
days,
for
for
2 days.
a 2-day board meeting. Yeah.
Well, they got a lot of problems, man. So they're going to need those 2 days. Either we think the CEO, Carlos Tavares, will be relieved of his duties, or we're going to see a huge, tremendous shakeup at the executive level at Stellantis. Either way, we think that's going to yield really big incentives on a bunch of vehicles that are obviously not selling because, well, the prices are too high and the cost to own them is too high. So it's, yeah, and here you go from King Casper. Hornets in our area are 20% off and still haven't seen them on the road. You know what that means? Prices. It means
the price is still too high. I'm telling you, John used to say it all the time. If your customer hasn't said yes yet, you haven't lowered the price enough. And you don't let them leave till you've lowered the price enough for them to say yes.
Yeah.
You know, and then you give your finance department the opportunity to recoup some of whatever loss you took on the front end. But to just have them sit there and to have them keep costing you money. And it's not just the money that dealers are paying in floor plan interest. It's the money that dealers are paying in lot rot. Okay. The longer these vehicles sit, they're not like a fine wine. They don't get better with age and without movement. So, you know, we've talked about it before. Flat spots on the tires, rusted rotors, warped rotors, dead batteries. I mean, all these things cost money above and beyond what you're paying in interest to floor plan that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
This
is never ending.
We're going to go back to the data in just a moment. Before we do, from Baron, thank you, Baron. I'm sorry, the economy is borked. We can't afford food, utilities, etc. Winter is around the corner. No one is thinking about a new car. Dumb if you are. I think a lot of people are still contemplating purchasing a new or a used car. The market's massive. But I do think that the affordability crisis is definitely rearing its ugly head for brands like Stellantis.
Yes, and you know, as much as we have said in the past, you know, stop buying cars. You know, we can say that till we're blue in the face. People are still buying cars. There's still people out there buying cars. So, yes, perhaps it's not the absolute best time, but you know, the least expensive time is coming up. You know, the end of the year. So, you know, whether or not realistically somebody should be in the market, that's up to them to decide. And hopefully they've done enough due diligence to figure it out. My guess is
100%.
A lot of them haven't, but they should.
100%. 100%. Dad, let's look at the data. We have the latest average transaction price information from Kelley Blue Book. The good news is down year over year, 0.4%. The bad news, prices are actually up month over month.
Again.
Yeah, so we actually saw an increase in the average transaction price for a new car. We are up to $48,397, which is higher month over month. So not a good sign. That being said, the average transaction or the incentives as a percentage of the average transaction price also did go up there, you know, from 7.2 to 7.3. So that's like
so
really good, but yeah.
So like ultimately it means people were paying the same as the month before.
Yeah.
That's what it means, which is not where we need it to be.
Now, we would expect this line to be going down. Here, this chart shows better. This blue line to be going down and this orange line to be coming up. December, the orange line will definitely be through the roof. Like that'll be back top.
I would guess.
I would guess close to 9% is what we're going to see in December.
I would think.
But it's a little bit of a bad omen to see new car prices actually going up a little bit. I was disappointed to see that.
Yeah, still moving in the wrong direction.
Yeah, it really is, which is unfortunate. That being said, Dad, we have another story that we need to cover this morning, which has to do with protecting consumers when they go to purchase a vehicle. U.S. Appeals Court judges challenge NADA, FTC, and oral arguments with a CARS rule case. For those of you that are unfamiliar, the FTC, the Federal Trade Commission, has proposed the CARS rules, which would protect consumers when they go to purchase a vehicle. This is all hung up in court at this time. What is going on there, Pops?
Well, yesterday was oral arguments and briefs before the Fifth Circuit Court in New Orleans, so that both sides, the NADA and the FTC, each had 30 minutes to present their oral arguments and then to take whatever questions the judges had for them. This is a very, very conservative court, which is why the NAD chose to file the suit in the Fifth Circuit Court, with the hopes, obviously, that it would rule against the FTC. You know, it just. I'm trying to think of a nice way to say this. It just seems to me that every now and then, common sense should rule the day. I would venture a guess that the three judges that were on the appeals court panel that heard the oral arguments and asked the questions, I would guess at some point in their lives, each one of those judges has probably purchased an automobile. And probably each one of those judges has encountered some of the things that the FTC is trying to rein in. So that at a certain point, doesn't it just for one time make sense to say, damn it, we're going to do the right thing. We are going to do our best to help consumers not be taken advantage of. It just doesn't seem that hard to me. And I guess it doesn't seem that hard to me because, well, I'm a simple man with a simple brain, and I don't understand all the intricacies involved in legal arguments and all of that. But damn it, sometimes just do the right thing. Just come to the right conclusion. Protect the American consumers from the predators that are out there in dealerships all across this great country of ours. Because every one of those attorneys involved, every one of those judges involved have all bought cars at some point in their life and have all been subjected to some of the things that the FTC is trying to rein in. So stop pretending that it doesn't exist and just do something about it.
Here are the 4 things that the CARS rules would protect consumers against. The rules prohibit deceptive information about pricing, financing, add-ons, and other material information. Dealers are required to disclose the offering price, the actual price anyone can pay for the car, excluding only government fees. It is illegal for car dealers to charge add-ons that don't provide any benefit to customers, and dealers would now be required to get customers express informed consent before charging them for any amount. So it all sounds pretty good, well and good to us. To be very clear, there are some good dealers out there, a lot of them. We have dealer reviews back on CarEdge.com. I'll actually pull that up really quickly because we have so many resources that I think from time to time our community can get a little lost in all the various things we have. But we have dealer reviews. Go to CarEdge.com under research. You'll see it. Where is it? Dealer reviews right there. Not to mention Deal School just got upgraded as well. So we have brand new Deal School. So if you just go to CarEdge.com, top menu, go to research, check out dealer reviews, find a good dealer, see what other people in the community are saying about that dealer. Use Deal School. It's 100% free. And like my dad was saying, you can click right here, choose a vehicle, and access all that information in our research hub as well. But yeah, Dad, it's interesting to see these legal proceedings happen because it just shows, it demonstrates how, I don't know, like antiquated our systems are and how bureaucratic our systems are, when at the end of the day, it's common sense. Protect consumers.
Well, you missed the one part. It's how things are bought and paid for. Influence, okay, lobbyists, things of that nature. So that even though judges might know the right thing to do to protect people, it might not necessarily be in their best financial position to rule in favor of the public, because the public is not buying them as many dinners as the lobbyists are, or taking them on as many trips as the lobbyists are. So it still comes down to money talks and everything else walks.
Unfortunately, that is super, super true. Pops, we've got to cut out early from today's show, but before we do, I want to show everyone something brand new. If you use the new buy a car feature on the homepage of caredge.com, you can put in a vehicle, let's say like a Honda Accord, in your zip code. And then ultimately, once you go through that flow, you will now be able to access dealer invoice price for that particular vehicle. So this is not like CarEdge Insights where you get access to every single vehicle, but for that one vehicle, you'll be able to access dealer invoice price broken out here by trim. So I just wanted to make everyone aware, caredge.com, if you news, it just went live yesterday. Check it out. If you're in the market to buy a vehicle, that's one new way on caredge.com. You can access dealer invoice price as well as all those recent CarEdge customer deals as well, and the cost of ownership and all that fun stuff. So a new experience that we think is really useful and really valuable. But Pops, today, unfortunately, I got a lunch I got to run to, baby. I'm excited to do it.
You are such an important character. Both in recognized.
I got to run to the lunch. Come on.
Yeah. Recognized both in Washington, D.C. and New York City. And so we'll go do the things that you need to do in order to make sure that, we can be back here tomorrow at noon Eastern, 9 Pacific. Love you, handsome. Have a great rest of your day and a safe train ride.
I love you too, Ted. Catch you all tomorrow.